Hello, everybody. Welcome to Navigate Leadership for your Voyage. I'm Kelly Byrnes, and today I'm so excited to introduce you to Deandra Audley. Welcome, Deandra.
Hi, great to see you today.
It's exciting to have you join me. And it's so funny for us to be all professional. We'll do our best. But Deandra and I've known each other for going on 10 years or more. We worked together in a previous role and caught up recently. And she had some really cool things to share about what she's doing in the teamwork space. So that's what inspired me to want to bring her on ASAP. Um, so let me do a little introduction of you before we go into it, though. Um, she is a graduate of KU Rock Chalk Jayhawks with microbiology. She's had a career in several different labs, including Boehringer Ingelheim, MRI Global, which is where we know each other from, Quest Diagnostics, Plasticon Industries, and she joined, is it Ingredion Incorporated? Is that okay? In 2021 as a QC supervisor. And Ingredion is an $8 billion company. That's huge. And headquartered in Chicago. And Deandra works in Lawrence. Are you
Yes.
or you are in KC? And she's a very interesting person and variety of different interests, including travel and gardening. One of my favorite things about Deandra is her love of dogs, and she has two pups, Margot and Violet. And I often, well, not lately, but I've in the past have dog sat for them, and I miss them. Okay, and BB, my dog, just got up and walked out, so I don't know if you heard a noise that was her
She
snoring.
does.
Did you hear her? Could you hear
I
her?
didn't.
Okay. I think the beauty of the microphones and the sound system blocked it out. Um, but the tagline of your company is that I saw online is "Be what's next," and I thought that was such a great fit for you because you're
Yeah.
always looking at what's next and keeping your eye out for what's the next thing to come along and what's new and what's going to happen and the newest, latest, greatest. Um, so I want to ask about just before we go into your current role, early in your career, how did you learn about teamwork and develop as a team member, team player yourself? Any
You know,
stories you want to share?
I've certainly encountered some challenges in that space, especially, early on in my career. Um, had, my own missteps in managing teamwork and I would say that through those missteps and trying to just make cohesive teams, I kind of wanted to see improvements there and be part of the team. And I think that that drive is going to be absolutely critical, for any team to function, having people that want to participate and be part of what's next. So um, I'd say that's it. I've had quite a few courses in different aspects of teamwork, whether it's, DISC. I've been through, some of your own courses that you've led, which I found very helpful. And then just kind of researching on my own and trying to see, what's out there when I've had my own struggles as a leader, and trying to make a cohesive team and just improve engagement and employee morale.
Did you have a time when you realized, like, oh, I am a leader? Like, did you have that, or did it just kind of evolve over time, or did
I mean, I think it definitely evolved over time. I mean, I always thought I had great ideas, but um, kind of learning how to communicate those ideas was really important and learning how, you know, to communicate to a team and not just have my ideas and say this is what we're running with was was definitely critical in getting to where I'm at now.
And how do you balance your own responsibilities at work? Because QC is there's a lot of pressure, and I know you have your own job, as most managers do these days. There's I don't know anybody that just oversees other people. So you have your own responsibilities plus the team. So how are you balancing that with the as a leader?
I think just trying to stay organized and, remembering that without my team, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I absolutely could not succeed without them being successful. So, I schedule frequent, like monthly one-on-ones where we can discuss anything that they want to discuss, if they have any concerns, if any questions, if they have feedback for me, I definitely am open to receiving that and want to receive that. So I think, probably over the course of my leadership, there have been some changes in that, and realizing that, I need to keep them engaged in this as well. So frequent communication. One of the biggest things I think that I've made a change with is answering why, not just delegating a task or I need this done, but explaining why I need it done so that my employees can understand how they fit into the bigger picture and maybe any urgency behind those requests.
Yeah, that's huge these days, isn't it? That's a big deal with in management and leadership. So let's talk about your teamwork. And when we got together maybe it's been a month or so, but you really spoke so highly of this team and the things that you're doing, and that you like this team, and that you like the practices that you've been doing, I think on a regular cadence, kind of quarterly, but some of the other things that you're doing. So share about that for everybody.
Yeah, so one of my goals, I just had been hearing kind of through, secondhand sources that maybe there was a little bit of discord, nothing major, but I thought it would be good for my own personal goals to make a goal to lead a quarterly team building exercise with all the members of my team. Something that's just a little less stressful, where we can all also get to know each other and build those relationships. So the first team building I did was on DISC. So I had all of my employees take their own DISC assessments and tried to find some fun ways to talk about the different personalities and share, what those preferences are, what those communications are, but in a more casual manner, not feeling like it was a meeting. And we came out of that and everyone said, that they really enjoyed it. They thought it was a lot of fun. We had some matching, like what DISC style do you think this person was? Everyone knew I was a D. I didn't fool anyone.
Shocking.
But I think the most impactful one that we've had was the next quarter that we did. I was focusing more on different communication styles and how it's not just verbally what you're saying or what you're writing, but there's a lot that can be communicated in tone and actions, body language, those types of things. And we did an exercise with paper chains. So at the beginning of the meeting, everyone individually had a stack of paper, scissors, and tape, and they made their own paper chains, with the goal being to make a chain as long as you could. So then we talked about all the communication styles, and the next part of that team building was for everyone to break off into groups. They had one leader who had 1 minute to talk to them about what they were going to do, how they were going to work together to cohesively make the longest paper chain they could. So I found it really interesting. With my size group, I end up having 2 separate meetings. So the first meeting, I could tell everyone was still kind of doing their own thing. They weren't, trying to communicate or work together as much. And, their paper chains were long. And I was really astonished at the second meeting because there was a lot more teamwork, efforts to work together. And those chains were like twice the length of the first groups. So it definitely, correlated that working as a team and communicating with each other was beneficial, even in this silly task of linking paper chains together. And I really do think that since we've started implementing these team buildings, that we have seen increased engagement with our staff. And I think it's added a little bit of self-awareness on their part, how they can manage their communication and work together with their peers.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So did you talk with groups about with the paper chain? Did you talk to them? Did they understand the difference between the first group and the second group? Or did they ever see that? Or...
Yeah, and especially after all of the meetings had concluded, we kept all of the paper chains. For a short period. Our break room looked kind of like a craft store. But, we did talk about like, wow, this group's chain is really long, and I kind of talked to the first group. Do you feel like you guys were, working together, or do you feel like you were still kind of individually working on it? And they said, yeah, I still feel like I was just kind of individually trying to do my thing. So we were able to talk after about how, the teams that really made an effort to work together and slow down and have that communication had been, more successful in the task.
Nice. And then do people refer to the paper chains in other conversations and stuff, or to DISC? Do they bring that up in other things?
No, they haven't. I did make a reference binder for our analyst, and it has a page for each employee. It talks about their DISC personality and how, they could communicate with other personalities or vice versa.
Okay.
And then it just has a section that talks about each different personality type and, what people's strong suits are, so that if anyone does have a question or, I'm really not sure how to approach this conversation, it's an extra tool that they can have to make those references.
Nice. And are you in there too? Did you put a page for yourself?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, because with the high D, sometimes the high D can come across as like cold or serious or mean or, short. All those direct, overly direct, and all those things. And I know your heart is bigger than anybody else in the whole world, but it could be missed in some, I haven't worked with you in that way, but if you have under stress and stuff, people aren't looking for that. So
I definitely think that there were some gaps before we did that assessment together and kind of learned about things. And I do think that it helped improve my team's understanding of, to me, I'm really task oriented, and just getting things done quickly is important. So I think it's helped them realize where I'm coming from, but also me participating in that exercise with them. I think we're all more reflective on what we can do. And, I admit I have improvement areas as well. So, I think discussing that with everyone made them know that, I'm working on it too. I don't just expect this out of you. We all can make the improvement. So
yeah,
it's helpful.
That's so good. I hope you go to the binder too. That team binder. That's really good. And they would recognize that and appreciate that. Nobody wants to work with a leader that thinks that they learned everything already.
True.
That's too outdated. That's not what's next. That's what has been. You don't want to be a has been in that space. And so do you have more of these coming up?
For our next team building, it's probably going to be a little bit more casual. A lot of my employees wanted to do tie-dyed department shirts.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So someone suggested that as a team building exercise. So I said, okay, we can do that. It's the end of the year. And then that gives me a little bit of time to research what my next team building is.
Awesome.
So I'm trying to, definitely listen to their suggestions and give them some incentives when they make suggestions as well.
Yeah. What kind of incentives?
Well, like in this case, it's just hey, we're going to do something that you guys are suggesting. We're not going to focus on necessarily learning anything, but you're making suggestions, and I want people to know that I do hear their suggestions, because there will be times where I'm not going to be able to follow, what they would like to do.
Mhm.
So we do that. We have incentives for our testing. We'll cater in lunch after, 4 weeks of not having errors,
Oh, okay.
kind of things like that. A lot of it's food motivated. So usually it involves catering of some kind.
Well, when they're so head down, focused on such an important job, they appreciate having a break and taking some good food.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You should have bring your dogs to work day. How would that
I
go
even
over in quality?
telling them that, but being a food manufacturing plant, it's always a hard no.
They would. I could picture Violet and Margot. They'd go crazy, huh?
Sure, there'd be a mess to clean up afterwards. Just see broken beakers everywhere.
Yes, no doubt. No doubt. Oh,
Yeah.
too funny. Um, when you decided to do the leadership, I mean, to do those team building exercises, was there any kind of a self doubt, or did you think like, oh, they're going to think this is corny, or people will resist, or this isn't my personality, or did
Oh,
you?
absolutely.
Okay, I hear that a lot. Like I know people do. So how did you overcome that?
Things. Um, I mean, I just really felt like it was something I hadn't done before, and that for my own growth, I needed to do it. Um, I mean, I did think about the benefits it could have for my team, but I realized that it was something I wasn't comfortable with, and that because I wasn't comfortable with it, it was probably something that I needed to work on.
Hmm.
Um, so I had put that in my yearly goals. So at that point, it's kind of, if I don't do this, it's going to negatively impact my performance review. Um, so I just challenged myself and went head on with it. I did speak with HR to see if they had any ideas for anything, um, that they could suggest, anything to work on. And really, I just kind of started looking on my own and searching until I found what I wanted to do, and kind of molded that to what I thought would work. And it did. So
Yeah,
really,
so good.
oh,
So when you look back over your own leadership journey, do you think that you're different now than you were 5 or 10 years ago as a leader?
absolutely.
And what do you
Yeah.
think is the biggest change?
I think my biggest change is probably listening, being an
Mhm.
active listener. I think especially with a task-oriented personality, it's very easy for me to have an idea and just say, nope, this is what we're doing. I found the solution, and just run with it. So I think, stopping and then listening to other people's ideas and saying, this isn't what I would do, but you know what, we can try something different too. My answer isn't always the best. Um, so listening to my peers, listening to my employee suggestions to see kind of what we can implement, and not just making it my choices, but making it more of a team choice.
Yeah, that's great. And what will you do to continue your leadership development?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely going to continue with the team building, having seen, how it's improved morale and engagement with my own team. I do feel like following those team buildings, my team is also more willing to provide feedback, um,
Mm,
knowing that, they kind of see me in a different light as just their supervisor. So I'd like to do that. I don't know. I think I want to work more with my employees about identifying growth opportunities for them. We started a little bit of that this year, but really working to identify where they want to succeed and what their career and growth goals are, so that I can help identify opportunities.
That's fantastic. That's what the research says a lot of people want from their immediate supervisor. So right on. You're on it. You're on what's next.
Yeah, I'm what's next.
Well, when we were talking about sharing what you were doing, and sharing your journey and stuff, was there anything else that you thought would be helpful to share?
No, I would just say sometimes when it seems challenging to focus on the goal and believe in yourself, it's easy to hear kind of the criticisms that other
Mhm.
people have, but overcoming that and saying, I hear this and I'm going to take this and I'm going to mold it into what I need to be, I think is a good way to look at it without being discouraged.
Yeah. How did you develop, I don't know what another word is, but thick skin? Like, how did you develop that and the mindset to not to be thick skinned, but you do take it in. Really, you do receive feedback so well, and you do want to hear it. And so, how did you develop that?
I think that part of it is, having conversations with my own friends or my former, coworkers, anyone where, you can kind of talk openly about things and say, hey, I got this feedback and, it was kind of upset me. Like, what do you think? Like, you've worked on me. Can you help me understand this? To kind of figure out, I think there's a disconnect between how we view ourselves and how other people view us. So bridging that disconnect and figuring out, like, okay, this is what that person's saying and this is how I'm being perceived.
Hmm.
It's really important. I also, you know, I had a manager who was also a very high D. So working with her, I had never realized, how I came across. I would receive that feedback, but in my head, I'd say, well, that is not, I just said it and I was to the point. That's all it was. But kind of receiving that from someone else who is a high D, it was like, okay, now I see what they mean when they've given me that feedback. I understand what changes I need to be in place. It's just that I didn't perceive myself that way, and it took someone else that kind of was talking to me in the manner that I did to say, okay, like now it clicks. I get it.
uh, you could see it and understand how people could interpret it in a way that was different than what might be intended. Yeah,
Yep.
self awareness is so important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow, so good. Thank you so much for coming on and for sharing all of this and sharing your journey. And I've seen the change over the years and the growth, and I just love it. And when you shared about the team building things, so many people like diminish those or like poo poo those. They're not going to do anything like that because it's phony. And you're so genuine about it, and it does build that rapport, and when that's the intention of it, and is truly about the team, that does pay off. And I'm glad you're seeing that, and leading it, and doing those cool things.
Absolutely. Well, I hope that, other people find something useful in this conversation as well and are able to use the things I've learned to
Yeah,
make impacts in their own lives.
I'm sure they will. And I'm sure that they'll, if they have questions. I didn't even open it for questions. So if anybody was watching live, thank you for joining us. And if you have questions, feel free to post them. And if you tag Deandra, I'm sure she will be glad to answer them when she's not in the lab or at work. Or I'll grab the questions and send them her way and get back to everybody. But thank you so much for coming on, and for sharing. And I'll look forward to hearing more of the activities and the success as your year wraps up, and look forward to seeing your tie-dye shirt.
Absolutely. It was great to talk to you. All
Thank you, Deandra.
right. Bye-bye.
See ya.